Hi everyone, it's Anna Holden with annaholden.com, and I am here today to tell you all about my Sensitive Self-Defense course. If those of you are watching live but you're not in on the call, know that you can go to my Google Plus events page and put comments and ask questions down there in the feed so that I can get to them. I will make sure to check that as I go on with this. So. I want to start by saying that I'm recovering from quite a cold, so if I cough or have to use a cough drop, I apologize for that, or if my voice isn't super strong, but I'm really excited to be feeling good and here to share this awesome program with you. So let's just jump right in. So I started Sensitive Self-Defense first of all because I am a highly sensitive person, and when I learned about the genetic trait of high sensitivity, my life really changed because I was able to identify a part of myself that was very elusive and I thought was kind of wrought with imperfection, or made me weird, or stand out, or was different somehow. But through identifying with high sensitivity and learning about it through the work of Elaine Aron and also Annie Axford, I learned to identify with sensitivity and how that made me awesome, how sensitivity was awesome. And I realized that as I'd gone through my own healing journey, a lot of the tools that worked for me worked because I was highly sensitive. And so sharing these very specific tools that I have for healing is part of what formed the Sensitive Self-Defense program. So if you're I'm not an expert on high sensitivity, and there are a lot of experts on high sensitivity who have their own programs to help you understand the genetic trait of high sensitivity. Dr. Elaine Aron has a lot of great books that you can self-study, and Annie Axford has her Sensitive Leadership program, which is fantastic. And those are really great programs for kind of understanding and working with the psychology of high sensitivity. My program is more hands-on. It says you are sensitive. That's awesome. And we're going to give you tools that are specifically for you so that you can manage life a lot easier. Something for me is, and a lot of the people I work with, is that we go to like a really crowded place, maybe an event with a lot of people, and we leave and we're exhausted and we feel kind of irritated and kind of frustrated and maybe a little bit angry. And it's like, why do I feel like this? That was supposed to be fun. These tools helped me so that I could go to these places, these situations, and leave feeling like, that was awesome. I'm actually energized now. So this program is about providing you with tools and principles to basically put up better boundaries, to understand that because you're sensitive, that kind of inherently means that there is less of a boundary. So how do you put up those boundaries in a very practical way that helps you change your life? Okay, so the tools that I use are different. They're not tools for the hardy, they're tools for the sensitive. And I think in the description that it's a combination of energy medicine and Ayurveda. And you might be thinking, why energy medicine? Why Ayurveda? High sensitivity is a language of the subtle. Okay, so highly sensitive people, we understand this subtlety in the world. We walk into a store or a room or a situation and we feel, and we feel or we sense something's off, something's weird, I feel stimulated, something's happening, I'm taking in all this information. Energy medicine is like the language of the subtle. It gives us a context for understanding that language. And so energy medicine tools are extremely effective. And what I found is that, I work with people one-on-one in this clarity work that I do to help them basically be happier. And what I found is that the sensitive people get it. They really, really get this subtle world. Okay, and so it is my my goal to share with you this context, this language for the subtle, where the energy medicine tools work really well, and then Ayurvedic tools as well. Ayurveda is a system of medicine dating back thousands of years, and it has fantastic application in dealing with the nervous system. And so it's through these tools of Ayurveda that we come to understand how the nervous system works and how we can calm and protect our nervous system. So in sensitive self-defense, we work on the subtle layers of the body, and we also work on the physical layers of the body. So we're working from both ends. So we're working on the whole person. Let's see. I realize my glasses are reflecting. I'm going to take them off a little bit. So we follow some concepts in sensitive self-defense that become really powerful for the participants. And a lot of these concepts are the principles behind energy medicine, or the principles behind healing. But a lot of them are extremely powerful for highly sensitive people. I'm going to share a couple of them with you. I don't want to give everything away, but the first one is that the physical follows the subtle. So anything that has manifested physically first had a more subtle component that preceded it. And I think this one is fairly easy to see in that, what we are exposed to often becomes what we think about, and what we think about often becomes what we believe and how we speak. And then what we talk about and how we speak often then becomes our actions in the world. And so, we then act upon all these other more subtle things. And so for highly sensitive people, we've often been unconsciously acting from this subtle context, from being bombarded by all this subtle stuff that actually does have some form, emotions, thoughts. It has a very subtle form, but it has a form. And so as we've been kind of bombarded, the nervous system taking so much in, we've been unconsciously forming our world around the subtle and acting around the subtle. And this is where a lot of highly sensitive people then get in trouble, because unconsciously we've been putting other people's needs first in order to avoid conflict, in order to keep ourselves safe. We've been pleasing other people so that nobody gets angry at us, because anger is so painful for highly sensitive people. And so that's one principle that we use. The one that I think really changes the lives of most participants is the principle that you are only responsible for the path of your own soul. This one's really important. You are only responsible for the path of your own soul. A lot of highly sensitive people are caretakers, caregivers, therapists, massage therapists, otherwise people who help other people, yoga teachers. And these people get exhausted, and they get health problems, and they get run down. And the reason is that they've started to believe that they're responsible for healing or responsible for helping somebody else, when really, they have a responsibility to be in integrity, have a responsibility to, do their craft well, those sorts of things. But, really, we're not responsible for the choices, for the thoughts, for the path of anyone else's soul. And so we talk a lot about this concept and the effects that it has on us and on other people. And these two concepts kind of help guide the other tools that we bring in sensitive self-defense. And so with these tools, we practice these principles. So these principles aren't just kind of like things that we talk about and then we don't come back to. All of these tools come out of these principles. So I really strive for the program to be very coherent, to make a lot of sense. Yes, we're working in the subtle realm, but this needs to be practical, right? I need to be able to feel this so that I feel different, so that I feel like I'm empowered in my sensitivity, not just that I have a lot of information about sensitivity, right? We want empowerment. And so then the tools that I use, I've talked a little bit about this, but again, we're using both subtle body tools. You can call these meditation tools. Meditation is one of the subtle body tools that we use. And then again, we use very practical Ayurvedic tools for working with the body. Again, energy medicine helps provide us this context for the subtle world. And to be fair, Ayurveda actually reinforces this subtle context. Ayurvedic medicine theory talks about the subtle. It says, hey, like, we don't have the physical without the subtle, so let's talk about it. And it has fantastic tools for working with the nervous system and understanding sensitivity and how it relates to the nervous system. And then let's talk about, what happens to people on this journey through sensitivity. The first thing that happens is that, we're working in the subtle body, and we're working with our thoughts and kind of our belief systems. And so there are all these subtle effects that start to happen. And the first one for people, for participants, is that they say, like, I finally felt like I belonged. I finally felt like I wasn't just weird, like I wasn't alone. I realized that my experience in life that I thought was so isolating is actually being experienced by all of these other great people around me. And so the course provides this wonderful sense of community. You're going and learning these tools with people who have had really similar experiences to you and thought that they were alone and thought that they were weird. And so the first effect is that you have a place. You have a place where you're welcome. You have a community of sensitive people. Community is so important for us. And then as we start to work with the subtle tools, subtle shifts start to happen that actually have really big effects. So I might have you, for example, doing a simple meditation on grounding, just kind of about holding your ground, saying, like, I get to take up this space on the planet. I get to be here. And that very subtle change has big effects. You start saying no to other people and saying yes to yourself. One woman came back and she said, I said no for the first time. I've never said no to somebody, ever. That was huge. So this subtle tool had a really big impact on her. It gave her so much freedom. Or you're doing the grounding meditation, then all of a sudden you're in a conflict situation, and instead of hiding, of kind of going into this, like, oh my gosh, I'm responding to conflict, it's bombarding me, you stand your ground. You recognize that this is just conflict. This is just an opinion. All the stuff that's moving towards me is energy. And I've had people come back and say, my partner, my husband, they didn't know what to do with me because I responded so differently. I didn't react. I didn't immediately give them what they wanted. I recognized what I wanted. I was able to hold my ground. So these subtle changes have really big effects in the lives of participants. And the other thing is just how they see themselves, how participants see themselves in different situations shifts. The principles and the tools and the concepts we talk about in the course help us kind of step back a little bit and take a really, broad view of ourselves in situations and how our sensitivity affects the way that we are in social situations, in interpersonal situations, in how we relate to the world. And so this provides a really welcome change, I think, for a lot of participants. And then the final big thing, I think, is that our responsibilities are better assessed when we have these tools. So I was talking a little bit before on that principle that we're only responsible for the path of our own soul. But a lot of times we, as highly sensitive people, feel subtly responsible for all of the people that we are helping. And that responsibility, it takes energy from us. And so as these tools are gained and practiced, what happens is that people are able to say, oh, I am helping that person, but I'm not responsible for their health. I can hold their hand and I can help them, but I'm not responsible. And it's this tremendous amount of freedom that comes from that gives the participants back their really back their own energy, so that this sensitivity that it's kind of set this context for how they relate in the world, and it's kind of been this negative thing, this burden is kind of taken back to them, given back to them. And they have more discernment, basically, more clarity over their lives. And then really the main thing is that we're providing clearer boundaries. This program is about boundaries. It's a self-defense program. It's about, how do I set up boundaries? How do I protect myself? These are the basics. How do I hold my ground? How do I put up a shield? How do I interact with others in a way that keeps me safe and present and responsive, and allows me to have greater compassion for the person that I'm working with, rather than just react and get angry or kind of shrink into a shell. How do I respond with compassion? So much better boundaries are created in this program. I piled together some of the common questions that I get asked, so I want to address those now. Just one second. Okay, so the first one is, how is the class offered? I offer this class, you can take it two different ways simultaneously. So the first one is, if you live in the Seattle area, please join me live. This next class, starting March 4th, will be held in the conference room in my office in the Saturn building, which is in the Fremont neighborhood. And so you can join live. And if you have the opportunity to join live, I encourage you to. But otherwise, you can join live online. So I'll have, just like we're doing now, but a private Google Hangout where you are joining us live. You're watching me teach live, you're interacting with people live, and you are part of the class. And I've taken a lot of online courses before, so I try to be very aware of making sure that you hear what's going on, making sure that your questions are answered. I've had a lot of people all over the world take this course online. The tools are just as effective. You get all the, I send you the materials, and you're part of the club. You're part of the group. Excuse me. People ask me, well, what if I miss a class? So depending on the group, I either audio record the classes, or I audio and video record the classes. So if you're sick one day, or if you're going on a vacation and you're going to miss one class, it's there for you. You still have access to the material, and the tools are learned sequentially. We want to understand grounding before we understand protection. And so I recommend that you try to watch that class before the next class. But it's there for you. It's okay if you miss one class. You're not going to lose everything, if that happens. And so logistically, the class is flexible that way. And then, people ask me, like, what does the cost of the class include? And so the full cost for this course is $389, but there is an early bird special happening until February 18th. The class is just $309. That includes all of your course materials. You get a manual that's over 100 pages that gives you all of this information. So you're going to learn it, and then you can read about it. You're going to do some drawings. It's interactive. You get that information. There's other kind of surprise course materials that I throw in as we go through some of the different tools and therapies. And then I think the biggest bang for your buck is that I offer weekly 20-minute check-ins for you. So we will chat for 20 minutes every week on how your tools are going. What are you struggling with? What's challenging for you? And in that 20 minutes, I offer you kind of a clarity reading on, an intuitive look at how are your tools working for you? What's going on? Is there kind of some weird energy we need to move? If you're feeling blocked, why are you blocked? And so you get a lot of one-on-one support from me. And that right there, it kind of makes up for the cost of the program. You get a lot of one-on-one support, and my door is open to you, so you can just kind of knock on it whenever you need to when you come in. And then this March 4th START program is pretty special because it makes you eligible to take the next level in this series, which is called Sensitive Self-Intelligence. And I have just launched this program on my website. It's a program just for graduates of sensitive self-defense, and it's starting March 29th. It's a little bit longer. It's a 6-week program, and it really dives into learning and intelligence on health and healing in a highly sensitive body. I'm currently in the process of finishing that manual, and it is like my thesis on HSP healing. So it's really involved. There's a lot more tools, a lot more concepts, and it gives you a wealth of information and tools to help you heal, basically. And when I say heal, I don't mean that you're broken. I mean healing as in coming home to yourself, like learning more about yourself, and getting deeper into and feeling more comfortable in the core of who you are. That's how I define healing. So if you sign up for this March 24th class and you love it, which most of the participants that love this course, then you're eligible to just keep continuing on. Sensitive Self-Intelligence will probably only be offered once a year, whereas Sensitive Self-Defense is offered 3 times this year. So if you can't make Sensitive Self-Defense starting March, there are other options this year. There's one, I think, right away again in April, and then another one next fall. And then Sensitive Self-Intelligence will probably be offered again next year sometime. So I really hope that I've answered some of the questions about sensitive self-defense and given you a really good idea of what the program is about. For those of you who are listening live or who are, listening really soon after this broadcast, I want to give you an incentive for signing up. If this program is really resonating with you, if it's feeling like, yeah, this feels really good, this feels like something I want to do. If you sign up before the end of the weekend, February 8th, I want to throw in a free 30-minute clarity session, which is valued at over $90. So I just want to give that to you. I think that when we have that gut feeling of like, yeah, I want to do this, and we act on that, that sends such a beautiful signal to the subtle world that says, I'm saying yes, I'm saying yes to myself. And so I'd like to offer that session just for some validation for you. If you have any other questions about this program, please don't hesitate to send me an email, send me a note on Facebook, or even give me a call. I'd be really happy to answer all of your questions, and I really hope to see you in the course. Love and light.